World leaders just made it a lot more difficult for Donald Trump to avoid questions about and accountability around Jeffrey Epstein. And it comes as the world descends on Munich for a security conference in which Donald Trump and his entire cabinet are noticeably absent. Now, filling that void, of course, is Democratic leaders like AOC, Gavin Newsom, of which I think the folks in Munich are probably more excited to see than they would have been a year ago when it was J.D. Vance who came to Europe, by the way, and lectured the entire world on free speech, saying that it was the UK, that it was France shutting down their citizens and silencing them. Now, I think considering how the last year has played out, we can all see the hypocrisy there as Donald Trump has used the full force of the federal government to cover up the Epstein files. But world leaders are making it a lot more difficult for Trump to do so. And it's coming as one leader in the United States, Ro Khanna, called on them to do just that.
This weekend, the most powerful politicians, tech leaders, finance leaders all head to Munich for their annual conference. Last year, Vice President Vance challenged Munich leaders on freedom of speech. This year, there's a far bigger challenge. These leaders need to confront the Epstein class. In Britain, the monarchy needs to answer about what they knew about the former Prince Andrew and whether there's going to be prosecution. The British government needs to answer for Peter Mandelson. The Norwegian princess needs to answer about her affiliations with Epstein. In Austria, in Sweden, governments need to answer for their affiliation with a convicted pedophile. And in the United States of America, that's sending the biggest delegation to Munich, we need to answer for cabinet members who were affiliated with the convicted pedophile. And we need to answer for some of the biggest elites in tech, in finance, in Hollywood, who were going to Epstein's Island knowing young girls were being raped. I hope at Munich, there is a lot of conversation on how we will hold this Epstein class accountable.
This is what we should be doing. We should be leading the world on accountability for the crimes that were committed by Jeffrey Epstein and carried out by every single one of his accomplices. Instead, we are quite literally hiding from that conversation. Do you think that it's a coincidence that Donald Trump doesn't want to be in Munich, that he doesn't want J.D. Vance there as world leaders are moving for accountability for those in their government, past and present, who were involved with Jeffrey Epstein? Do you think as that's happening, Donald Trump wants Howard Lutnick or Scott Bessent or J.D. Vance? I can promise you absolutely not. Those people are well connected within the Epstein circles, within the Epstein class that Ro Khanna refers to, and it is why Donald Trump has had to hide. And it's why Donald Trump is also losing some of his other big spokespeople like Joe Rogan, who said this before world leaders made the move that has Trump panicking.
So we know Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem sent the torture video to Epstein. This is in 2009. So Epstein was saying that. Where are you? Are you okay? I love the torture video.
Jeez.
I am in China. I'll be in the U.S. second week of May. What the fuck, man? And why is his name redacted? Why would your name be redacted if you're not a victim? Like, this is what's crazy about all this. Like, how come you redact some people and you don't redact other people? Like, what is this? This is not good. None of this is good for this administration. It looks fucking terrible. It looks terrible.
When even Joe Rogan continues to talk about Epstein, no matter how hard Donald Trump has tried to deflect or how many guests have come on his podcast, which, by the way, is a lot, who were friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Elon Musk went to dinners with Epstein, begged to go on the island. Mark Zuckerberg went to lunches and dinners with Jeffrey Epstein. I think it's very difficult to ignore that Peter Thiel, who has made consistent appearances on Joe Rogan's podcast, that guy was incredibly close with Epstein, talking about destabilizing the world for their financial gain. And Joe Rogan is an idiot, obviously, but him talking about how in 2017 he said hell no to a meeting with Epstein and then still giving grace to these billionaires who knew surely even more than he did is just ridiculous. All of these people knew. And that is the point. These people knew. It is why everyone involved with Epstein should be held accountable. It's what leaders in Europe are doing right now, and it is bad news for Donald Trump. I want to get into some examples and then talk about why. Prince William's pal resigns over Epstein torture video. An Emirati executive with ties to Prince William has stepped down as chairman of a multi-billion-dollar logistics company following revelations of his close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. The ex-prime minister of Norway has now been charged with corruption linked to Jeffrey Epstein. The man who briefly led Norway in the 1990s had been protected by diplomatic immunity that came with his work with the Council of Europe, but that privilege has been waived. These are just two notable examples as Epstein revelations have toppled top figures in Europe while U.S. fallout is more muted. A prince, an ambassador, senior diplomats, top politicians, all brought down by the Epstein files, and all in Europe rather than in the United States, the AP writes. The huge trove of Epstein documents released by the U.S. Department of Justice has sent shockwaves through Europe's political, economic, and social elites, dominating headlines, ending careers, and spurring political and criminal investigations. Former UK ambassador to Washington, Peter Mandelson, was fired and could be sent to prison. The British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, faces a leadership crisis over the Mandelson appointment. Senior figures have fallen in Norway, Sweden, and Slovakia. And even before the latest batch of Epstein files, we have seen another, Andrew Windsor, brother of King Charles III, lost his honors, princely title, and taxpayer-funded mansion. Rob Ford, a professor of political science at the University of Manchester, said that in Britain, if you're in those files, it's immediately a big story. It suggests to me we have a more functional media. If that isn't true, we have a more functional accountability structure, and there's still a degree of shame in politics in terms of people will say, this is not acceptable. This is just not done, he said. Starmer fired Mandelson in September over earlier revelations about his Epstein ties. Now British police are investigating whether Mandelson committed misconduct in public office by passing on sensitive government information to Epstein. Starmer has apologized to Epstein's victims and pledged to release public documents that will show Mandelson's lied when he was being vetted for the ambassador's job. That may not be enough, though, to stop furious lawmakers trying to eject the prime minister from office over his failure of judgment. Europe is in revolt over leaders with connections to Epstein, who messaged with Epstein, who committed crimes alongside Epstein. And where is that in the United States? And I think to say that the accountability has failed top down is absolutely correct. But there is so much that can be attributed to the way that our media has failed to cover this. And I think European leaders right now moving forward with firing, waiving of immunity, calls for investigations, actual investigations, release of documents is so important right now. Donald Trump hates to see that. He hates to see the pressure that is being put on world leaders by their own citizens, and also how they are responding to that pressure in a real way. That is incredibly scary to Donald Trump. Now, don't you dare think for a second that that is not certainly part of the reason why there is no U.S. representation in Munich right now. Donald Trump does not want any of his cabinet members to have to answer questions about this. But Europe is actually responding. And I think the media part of it is very, very important. Obviously, as someone who is an independent media, who cares deeply about the media and how it is broken in this country, there are so many examples of the way that we've failed, even by those who I would say want to see accountability. I don't think Jesse Waters really cares. Laura Ingraham doesn't care. Joe Rogan, any way on any day he could go, I don't know. But when you talk about someone like Kirsten Welker, and I hate to pick on her, but this just so bothered me, and I see it at CNN all the time. I don't want to pick on her alone. But when she says something along the lines of, well, we have to really stress that being in the Epstein files doesn't mean you've committed a crime. That irks me. I'd say that more than irks me. It fucking pisses me off. Why are we giving so much grace? Why are we giving the benefit of the doubt to these people who were with Epstein? Joe Rogan saying that in 2017 he wouldn't hang out with Epstein because he's like, oh my God, this guy is disgusting, and not having it clock in his head that also the billionaires who were hanging out with Epstein had that same information is crazy to me, because he's had those billionaires again and again and again and again on his podcast. And so you're telling me that Elon, that Zuck, that all of these guys who claim, well, nothing happened, same with Lutnick, oh, I was disgusted by him, then I went and hung out on the island. You knew what was happening on the island. Jokes were made about the island. Disgusting jokes by disgusting people who are so depraved that they didn't care that they joked about the island. So I'm tired of our media giving grace to a billionaire class, to an Epstein class that knew what was happening and did nothing. They are implicated in the fact that they knew and they did nothing. I don't care if they didn't participate or not. They didn't do anything about it because they wanted to protect themselves and they wanted to protect their friends and they wanted to protect their money. So our media has failed. They have failed completely. Even in the tiny little details, I talk about how ridiculous it is that Epstein is referred to as a disgraced financier. Oh, disgraced? Yeah, I'd fucking say. Are you kidding me? That is the softest language you could possibly use for a scandal this big that is bringing down governments. And you call him disgraced? It is language intended to numb us. That is what is being used by our media. That is what is being used by our government. You are already seeing in real time. I'm getting so close to the camera. I'm going to step back because I don't need to get in your grill. You already spent enough time with me. You don't need me breathing down your neck like this. But I'm fucking fired up. This is driving me crazy. You are already seeing right-wingers, and shout out to Van Lathan, who started pointing this out. You are already seeing Donald Trump's stooges in the media start to refer to Epstein's victims as Epstein's alleged victims. You heard me right, Epstein's alleged victims. Victims that the DOJ has published their names again and again and again, and then had to redact because of Pam Bondi's incompetence. They're referring to them now as alleged victims. They're starting a campaign to say that Virginia Giuffre is the center of all of this, and she's not trustworthy. There are thousands of women and girls who are at the center of this. It is almost an incalculable amount of people whose lives were affected or destroyed by this cabal of criminals. And you're saying alleged, and you're saying we can't trust them? What are you talking about? That is what is happening right now. It is a systematic effort by our media, right-wing and corporate, to numb us, to keep us moving, to have us care less, to treat it as if it is a joke or something that does not need us to be hair on fire, and we should be. It is a failure of our media, a great failure of our media. And we should recognize it and call it out as such. It has never been more important than now to build media that we can actually trust, and that will react to this in a way that it deserves. This is the greatest scandal of our time. This is bigger than Watergate. And the media isn't acting like it. We are certainly going to on this show. I'm sorry that I yell at y'all sometimes. It's not your fault. It's just too much sometimes. It's too much, and we need to respond to it adequately. And I'm glad that we are seeing that from some world leaders, a lot of world leaders, in citizens of other countries in Europe. My God, we're going to keep on calling it out. And if you want to help us also shift our media online, of course, you can subscribe here or down below to Shift and click right here to watch our latest video. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.